So much, Juan. Yes, as I already said, I'm so excited to be here. Actually, my whole community journey started 1 year ago at NG Vikings, where I met so many beautiful, awesome people. And I'm so excited to be now that have the honor to speak over here. So my topic is that I want to present today is about the post-Ivy release time. Some of you might know me already. I'm giving a lot of talks already about Ivy, like what you can do with Ivy. That said, I would say, get something to drink, skull to you, and just let's start. So, as you all know, is that Ivy was, of course, already released in version 9 as a default compiler engine. And I'm pretty sure you heard about all these awesome, amazing things you can do now with Ivy. We have a faster compilation. We get smaller bundle sizes, which is really a significant, awesome change because Angular had a really high bad reputation regarding the bundle sizes. And everything is easier when it comes to debugging and reading the code, and everything is so just wow. But at one point, you might think, okay, but what can I do now with Ivy? Like, what are the possibilities? Do I have to completely recreate all my Angular application from scratch? What should I do now? I will come to that, but first, let me introduce myself. I'm Martina Kraus. I'm based in Germany. I'm a Google developer expert in Angular, also a Women Tech Makers ambassador. So I'm really creating a lot of events, empowering and encouraging women all over the world, mainly in Germany. As my job, I'm also a trainer and consultant. So whenever you have a question, you can just ping me at any time on Twitter or whenever you want. As well, I am also a core team member of the NG Girls team. Here, I'm right now shipped to Berlin with my all Viking poles from the NG Girls team. And we had an event over there. Juan was also there as well, actually. We had as a mentor. So we had 80 participants over there. And I'm really glad to share always the stage with so many awesome, my core team of the NG Girls Vikings. And another core team member, actually the founder of NG Girls, Shmuela Jacobs, is also doing a talk at NG Vikings tomorrow. Make sure you're not going to miss it because she's announcing really an awesome, amazing thing. And she's also, apart from a great speaker, she's also a really great person, and I really adore her a lot. So make sure you're not going to miss that. As well as Juan already mentioned, yes, I'm a basketball player. I played basketball for over 20 years, kind of a professional level as well already. And I took a short break, but this year I will rejoin basketball because it's just my really true love. So let's come back to the main topic, the post-Ivy release time. As I said, yes, Ivy is there now, but what can we do now with Ivy? So what is Ivy, basically? What can Ivy do more for us than just having smaller bundle sizes? I'm pretty sure if you already digged a little bit into Ivy and did a little bit of research, you came across all these Ivy instructions that you got. Mark dirty, render component, compile component, and all these instructions are exposed by the core framework, and you can just import them at anywhere and just develop with it, and can help you, for example, to lazy load a component, or maybe like mark dirty is like the equivalent of change to detect changes, but without using the whole Zone.js inside. So basically, with Ivy, you can do a lot of new awesome stuff because Ivy is an enabler. You can lazy load components. That said, of course, lazy loading, you might not need Angular modules anymore. So you have optional Angular modules. You get also higher order components. That means that you create a component, a function that returns a component. That brings a lot of possibilities when it comes to meta-programming. As well, as I said, optional Zone.js. Like you might don't need to use Zone.js anymore because Zone.js has the disadvantage that it increases your bundle size actually a lot. But today, I'm not going to talk about all these features because other friends of mine, like my friend Sedat Ajmera, is doing a lot of talks recently regarding the future of Ivy. Today, I wanted to show you a complete new feature that you might not have heard of yet. I want to talk about component features. Did you ever heard of that? Me neither. Till the moment I read a great article from Lars. Lars, he's also like a in-depth author, and like he's a machine. He's like writing so much content, and it's really amazing and great. So I read this article about component features, and I was like, why the hell does no one knows of this awesome new Ivy feature? And as he tells it, it's Ivy's best kept secret, and it is, because there's rarely content about it. And I will come, by the end of the talk, I will tell you basically why. But make sure you check out his article, because my whole talk is inspired by this article of him, and he's really a really great person. So let's see. Component features in a nutshell, as they are introduced by Ivy, and they're changing the behavior of a component at runtime. That's it. So basically, you can just introduce some meta programming as well. Like you can just maybe already, before a component, actually before it reaches your component code, you can already subscribe to route parameters or add any kind of traits to your component. Before we dig into the how it's doing it and how we maybe can create our own component features, we might need to shortly cover some basics. As you remember, when we have a component and we compile this component, like we have this component decorator, and we compile this component decorator with Ivy, we get JavaScript code that looks most probably something like this. So we have a static property, this theta CMP, and there is the whole so-called component definition inside. So basically, this decorator is compiled, converted to a static property, which has a whole component definition. Okay, what is there inside this component definition? What is it actually? This component definition has all the metadata and all the data for the component and all the knowledge of the component, that the component knows how to be compiled and how to be displayed. And everything is stored inside this app component.theta CMP. Basically, you don't need to care about that, because this is automatically rendered and compiled for you by the Ivy engine. But it's always really good to take a deep look into what is actually the JavaScript looking like, what I'm compiling here. So really, in a simple way, you can say it contains all the component annotations and that are available at runtime, like the type, the selectors, the template, and the styles. And this is one side feature that Ivy ships, that inside one file, inside this component definition, we have the template, which has a function, and this function is the whole rendering of the component. Okay, so far so good. So how does this come along with the feature? Yeah, if we take a look now at the function define component, we see here, as I said, it has the type, the selectors, many more things like the template as well. And here we find something, a property that is called features. Did you ever see that? I was really surprised. I was not aware of that for a long time. And I was like, okay, what is this about actually? And I did a little bit of research about this and read this great article by Lars. And then I figured out, okay, there is this property, but it's not really available yet inside this component decorator. As I said, you would basically, this whole component definition is eventually the thing that you define here inside the component decorator. So it would look like something like that, right? We have this component decorator, which holds the whole component metadata, like the select and the template and the style, and maybe the change the text and strategy, the view encapsulation strategy, and of course, the features then. But this is really interesting because till now, we don't have this, this line over here. We can't add to this component decorator features, but it's there. In the compiled version, it's there. So what does it get? We see that the feature is getting something like an array of component def feature. So what is that? Basically, it returns a function that takes this component definition, what I'm talking about the whole time, this component definition, and with this component definition, you actually get the whole component and everything that is inside the component, as I already mentioned a couple of times. So you can completely change behavior. You can assign, if you, for example, create an observable on this component, you might can subscribe to this observable directly inside this component feature. Okay, this sounds pretty good. So maybe the question is, how can we actually develop one on our own, right? So how can we implement our own features? The basic is actually really simple. You create a function that returns a function, higher order function. Really a simple principle. So we take a component def, and basically what needs to be done to change the behavior of a component is to assign a new function to the factory of a component definition. So here's the thing. The component definition has the component and the factory of a component. The factory of a component is that function that eventually, as the definition of a factory is, the whole component itself, how the component is created. So we have to basically override this function again. So we get a component out of the component factory by calling the type of the component. And then we just assign a new function to this factory. And here inside, we can apply all kind of changes to the component. As I said, for example, if the component actually has an observable, we can maybe already subscribe to route parameters over here. Or if maybe this is a parent component, and the parent component gets the event from its child component, we could convert already this event to another observable, that because I love to be reactive a lot, so I love using observables everywhere. So we could already use converting this event emitter, like this event that is bubbled up to us, to an observable. And it has a lot of, and I don't have to care about this anymore inside my component code. So I have a separation of that. So this whole component feature is actually creating a whole new world, a whole new world about metaprogramming. Yes, and actually, Ivy is doing that already without really letting you know. So Ivy actually has something, is providing something that is called a host feature. And with this host feature, you get automatically applied a feature that is called lifecycle hooks feature. As you might recognize by the name already, this lifecycle hooks feature enables the component to be able to call all the lifecycle hooks we have on change, on init, on destroy, on after view, init, all these lifecycle hooks. So basically, they're doing it already. And there are like a couple of more internal Ivy features. You can just go inside the core source code and check and search for the word feature, and you see like 4 other features that are already like applied to inside the compiler and enabled as a feature to the component without that you actually know. For example, that you can provide services inside your component. There's a providers feature. And there are other ones as well. There's one that's called ng on change feature. I want to say some words later onto that, but there are already a couple of features that are automatically applied. So it enables you a complete new way of metadata programming. Okay, hold on, Martina, timeout. What about decorators? You're telling me like the whole time about, yes, metadata programming and function that exports a function and so on and so forth. We have decorators for that, don't we? Yes. But let me tell you something about decorators, because what you might also not considering is that Angular treats decorators in a kindly different way. For example, we have all these like component decorator and directive decorator and this pipe decorator, but they don't get evaluated to functions like it would be as a usual TypeScript decorator, right? So what they're doing is converting them to a static property, like the theta CMP, like the theta dir and theta pipe. So they're doing some voodoo, creating static code out of that. And that's how to deal with some other issues custom decorators are bringing. Because custom decorators, and now hold your beer or wine or whatever, apple juice, whatever you have, I need to tell you something. Custom decorators are not tree shakeable. Yes, you won't believe this, but they are not tree shakeable. And that's the most common issue about custom decorators. As well, they are not really standardized yet. There are a lot of great persons out there. I actually just read recently an article from Greg Spence. He wrote an article a long time ago as well, how to actually ship as well custom decorators and bringing them to some static code as well to deal with this tree shakeable issue. Great article, you should read it. But basically there is no standard way for that, right? So they are not tree shakeable. And if they're not tree shakeable, I mean, the main purpose of getting Ivy into Angular is the whole tree shaking process, because Vue Engine wasn't tree shakeable as well. So we can use custom decorators, but they are neither standardized nor tree shakeable. So that's the reason why features could bring a new way of metadata programming to Angular. So, okay, bring it on, Martina. I like features. What can I do? How can I enable them? Yes, unfortunately, I have to tell you something. I have to bring you down to the ground again. Because recently there was a pull request open. It was like before I submitted even this talk and everything, that the feature, the Ivy features is still debatable. It's still because they are scared a little bit of exposing this whole feature, because it could mess up with a lot of metadata programming. Like it could create another issues, because we basically can change everything on the component, right, during runtime. Also, they removed one feature from the compiler that is not automatically applied anymore. This is this ng on changes feature. But I would really like, because all these features, all the things, all the Ivy instructions, which still have this theta sign in front of the function, are not publicly available yet. They can still change in the future. But who can make the impact? You can make the impact on what kind of features and what kind of Ivy instructions will be maybe shipped in 10, 11, 12. So you can just go ahead, read this pull request as well, give a comment, because in Angular is open source. You can just reach out to all the GDEs, or everyone can just file an issue over there and ask, please make Mach30 available soon. Please leave the features inside. And this is why I still wanted to share this topic with you, because it does, this feature, for me, I really like it, and it does really enables like a lot of metadata programming, because we are possible to then composite all the components and not having maybe a base component and inherit from that and things like that. That is always like a little bit of a workaround somehow. Use cases for this component feature could be, as I already mentioned, like the whole route parameters, like subscribing already to route parameters, the whole route data, managing subscriptions, like we can automatically unsubscribe from observables maybe inside this feature. We can apply already, there's actually a great library from Netal Basal out there that is called Take Until Destroy. We can already, he implements that as a decorator as well, but we could apply something like that as a component feature, we can, as I said, convert all the incoming data already to an observable, because reactive programming is really good. In my opinion, I love it. So there are a lot of use cases out there. And again, I would like to, because 20 minutes are really less time, of course, to show you the whole possibilities. So I really request you to go to the article of Lars. He really explained everything way, way better than I did and more deeply, and shared a lot of examples how we can actually enable component feature. Because there is no really standard way of custom decorators yet, they're still really questionable for years already, actually. I read about this in some Google developer groups like for 2017, so 3 years ago. The same question, what about custom decorators? So there's still not really like in a standard way they're out there yet. And component features can be used for changing the behavior at runtime, but as I said, they're not exposed yet. So take a look into that. I would really love you to take a look into that. And I really hope I gave you good insights. As I said, 20 minutes are not that much, of course, but I really would like, thank you all. Thank you to the organizers. You will find my slides over here. If you have ever any kind of question, you can ping me on any kind of these channels. And